today. Is that a sign of what's to come, or are they going to kind of go away as soon as they came in?
It's interesting. We started the week lots of sun. We're going to end the week sunny too. So we have this little band of clouds right here in the middle of the week rolling through. Yeah. But really, they were those high wispy clouds, and they didn't bring any rain to the area. So tomorrow morning, I still think a little cloudy, Cody. But as we get into the afternoon, we'll see more sunshine, which will carry over into the day on Friday. It looks like pretty nice, and we have we've been warm, but even warmer weather coming up as we head toward the weekend. So we'll take a look at that, and if we actually start to cool down anytime soon here as we enter October, we'll have more on that, Cody, a little later.
Yeah, sounds good. I look forward to that. For now, our top story tonight, the federal government is shut down as of midnight. It comes as Congress failed to agree on a funding plan. Many federal workers are being impacted, including those taking care of our national parks. At Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore, visitor services are on pause. Our Allie Baxter spoke with a retired ranger today.
It's not an easy time to be a National Park Service employee.
When we last spoke to retired National Park Service Ranger Tom Ulrich in February, it was about federal cuts to the NPS and how that plays out here at Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore.
Feels like there's a real impasse, and that this current administration, who we work for as National Park Service employees, doesn't really care.
In his 35-year career, Tom has endured quite a few federal government shutdowns.
Half a dozen that were of any length. There are quite a few that were just, a day or a few hours.
And each shutdown, Tom says, is a little bit different depending on the current administration's preferences and the time of year the shutdown occurs. This one plans for people running the campgrounds to stay on duty since they are not paid from appropriated funding.
What is common among them, however, is that there's always people who remain on duty called accepted employees who are there to protect life, health, safety, and property. So, for example, right now, the law enforcement rangers at Sleeping Bear Dunes are on duty to prevent vandalism, to assist, people that are having medical emergencies, etc. And we always keep on at least one maintenance type person.
If you head to areas of the park right now, you may see a few doors closed and locks on buildings that normally the public can wander through, along with empty booths where normally a ranger would collect a fee.
There could definitely be, washouts on trails or limbs down on the bike path, or, no toilet paper in the vault toilet at the beach we're at.
According to Friends of Sleeping Bear Dunes, research programs are paused. Volunteers also can't help during this time since they have to be supervised by a park employee.
But while people think, those government employees are getting a paid vacation, that's not at all the way the government employees look at it. They want to come to work.
Is this you?
Let me see. Yep.
That's you?
Yeah, that's me. I just hope they consider that we all want to work, and, it's an amazing place. We'd like to keep it open.
This is Tom right before shutdown in October 2013, echoing the same thoughts he told us now in October 2025.
It's not a surprise because, the ethos of National Park Service employees is continuing. As we move into successive years, this has been happening more and more often.
Well, new ownership has officially taken over operations of the Great Lakes Central Railroad, a key rail line running through much of Michigan. The Great Lakes Central is the largest Class 3 regional railroad in Michigan, covering roughly 400 miles from Ann Arbor up to Cadillac, with branches reaching Traverse City and Petoskey. WACO has been an investor in the railroad since 2013, but now assumes full operational control. The railroad connects more than 25 customers across 15 counties, shipping agricultural products, plastics, fertilizers, and more.
Well, it's always a challenge when you take on a new operation like this. It's over 400 miles, there's 50 plus team members, a lot of equipment and parts, so it's really the logistics of bringing everything together and keeping the rail running and keeping the customer served while in the process.
Patterson says WACO plans to invest in infrastructure and grow its relationships with the local businesses that rely on this railroad. For the past few days, as the sun has set, the sky has not gone black for some areas. Purples and greens have stretched across the horizons. Up North Live's Mary Jane Glenn asked an Aurora chaser why there has been an uptick in sightings.
For Aurora light chasers like Patrick Gruba, lately he's been on a sleepless quest.
For the last 72 hours, I've been up. I've maybe had 7 hours of sleep. We've had an unprecedented 3 days of great displays of aurora for Michigan.
For some, these sightings come down to just luck. For Gruba, he's been chasing the aurora lights since Sunday night.
For this particular display, we're not really sure what's generating it. We know that there was a coronal hole on the sun. All auroras start at the sun, so it's what the sun is doing, shooting out solar particles towards us.
Gruba does know that we are officially in aurora lights season, and it's expecting to be a big one this year.
Solar max, the sun has a cycle, 11-year cycle of max, and then it's actually 22 because you got 11 years of going up to max and then 11 years to go to solar min. And we're on the downhill slide of solar max. It was last year. But historically, the downhill slide is where you get a lot bigger storms.
For those of you who may want to try to catch the lights, Gruba suggests that you either start right at sunset or around 2 to 3 a.m.
What you want to do is you want to find a clear, dark sky that has a north-facing view and a clear view of the horizon. The darker the sky, the better your chances of seeing it. The farther north you go, the better you see it.
One viewing area you can test your luck is the Headlands International Dark Sky Park.
So if you were at the Headlands on a normal, like KP5, a small geomagnetic storm, you would not look out over the water. You would actually look behind the building and to the north. So whenever anybody's here, we're not the best location to view the northern lights because you want to look out over the horizon.
If you don't catch the aurora lights, you might catch something else by surprise.
On a normal night, we have great views of the stars, the Milky Way. People come and they lay out on the lawn here. It's a nice safe space lit with red lighting for stargazing, and we're open 24 hours a day.
Gruba says that the McGulpin Point Lighthouse and the Wilderness State Park may have higher chances of an aurora light sighting in that area. In Emmett County, Mary Jane Glenn, UpNorthive News.
To talk a little bit more about these northern lights, we're going to bring in Patrick Gruba, the aurora chaser you just saw there. Thanks for joining us. I want to ask first just a little bit about, when the lights are expected to be out, what your day-to-day looks like, because I know you mentioned in that story a little bit, not all the time, a whole bunch of sleep.
Correct. In fact, a lot of our members are always asking, when do I sleep? And
Yeah.
I sleep usually during the day because I'm out a lot of the time at night. And the last 3 to 4 nights, it's been really very good, unusually strong aurora for Michigan.
Yeah, and of course there is a big commitment there, especially when you're kind of changing around the sleep schedule. So what makes it, special to you to consistently do this?
It's really hard to describe. Each person will handle the lights differently, but once you see them, they're just so magical, and no show is ever the same. It's always different. And it's just something that's great in nature, and it's free, and all you have to do is just have a night sky to go out and see it.
Was there a certain time that you can look back on and say, hey, this is when I realized I really wanted to do this and really commit to doing this aurora chasing?
I've always been a fan of astronomy. Since an early age, I've had telescopes, and I've always been a big fan of looking at that. But we bought our home in 2017 up here in Mackinac City, and on this deck, it's kind of a world-famous deck for the Michigan Aurora Chasers. I noticed that the sky is usually really dark, and I kept noticing every once in a while it was really bright, and I couldn't figure out why it was so bright over there. And on one night, I'm like, I have my cell phone with me. I'm going to take a picture, and wow, it was the Northern Lights, and I've been hooked ever since.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I've never actually seen the Northern Lights really in full force like that. So can you tell me a little bit about what's the process of finding and chasing these Northern Lights and the way that you guys do it?
So the process, sometimes it's just luck. You just happen to be at the right spot. But what I normally do is we have apps. There's Space Weather Live app, and then there's a Glendale app, and Glendale is specifically geared for roar chasing, and it's a web-based app, and I use those, and I use the experts in our group and live sightings, and when we know something's happening, usually I have a 3-day notice, because the aurora doesn't start here on Earth, it starts at the sun. So the sun has to produce energy particles that sends our way, and to interact with the Earth's magnetic field to create the aurora. So we kind of watch the sun, see what's going on with that. And if a CME or if a coronal hole is facing our direction and is sending high-speed particles our way, we kind of start getting excited and watch that. And then once out in space, there's a geosynchronous spot. It's called L1, where our satellites are. We wait for the winds to hit that and get the data from that. That tells us, hey, what's the potential for aurora? And then we start getting in gear and getting ready. And then we have to check, now that the solar particles are on their way, we know that, then it's time to look at Earth-based weather. What's the moon forecast going to be? What's the weather forecast going to be? And then prepare to find a nice, dark, clear north horizon view.
Yeah, and you mentioned it's been good recently, and I know in the story you mentioned how it's a busy season. So it is a busy season right now?
Yes, especially on the equinoxes, the way that the Earth tilts towards the sun, it opens up, it's a McPherson effect, and it opens up the magnetosphere to be greater influence of the solar particles. So aurora tend to be bigger and brighter, and we have them more frequently or historically. There is no guarantee or no time schedule that you're going to say on this date or at this time we're always going to get them. It's the luck of the draw. There's a reason why they call it a chase and not an appointment to see the lights. You have to chase them. But usually in March and September, around in that time, you have a greater likelihood of seeing them.
Yeah, now on this show every day we ask a question of the day, and today our question is, do you have a favorite spot to see the northern lights? So I wanted to ask you, I know you said it's a chase, but do you have a favorite spot or a couple favorites in northern Michigan where you've just really enjoyed spending that time and watching them?
Yep, there's a few. My favorite is my deck. I have this beautiful view, and I catch everything under the sun that's coming this way. Meteors, aurora, the Milky Way. It's perfect. But then I do enjoy wilderness. Now for the aurora lights, it's very dark. It's more dark than where I'm currently at. It's even darker than what Headlands is at, and it has a nice north-facing view. So that's probably my favorite place to go.
Yeah, and people can kind of follow along with the chasing that you guys are doing. Is that correct?
Correct. We have a website, MichiganAuroraChasers.com. We also have a Facebook page that was founded by Melissa Kalin back in 2021. And we do live chases through the entire state when we know that we're pretty certain that we're going to get a nice display. Our admins and group experts will lead people on a chase to catch them.
Yeah, very cool. Patrick Gruba, Northern Lights Aurora Chaser, thanks so much for joining us and spending some of your time with us on this Wednesday. I spoiled it a little bit, but just real quick, we're going to go over our question of the day again. Our question today, do you have a favorite spot to see the Northern Lights? If you'd like to vote, you can just scan the QR code on your screen. You can also vote on our Facebook page and on our website, UpNorthive.com. That takes us to our first break of the show. When we get back, we'll look at the rest of your week forecast with Joe Charlevoix. Stick around.
I'm Jada Johnson from Big Boys TV, and the Fish and Game Report is sponsored by Johnson's Propane.
Welcome back to Unscripted. We've had warmer temperatures and still warmer today, but it feels a little cooler. But Joe, as we bring you in here this weekend, we have some warm ones on the way, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised we're down mid and upper 80s maybe here in October. That just doesn't happen too often. So we'll see that maybe Friday, especially Saturday time frame. Okay. But it was still pretty warm today, Cody. I mean, some 60s and 70s out there once again. We're looking at Drummond Island right there. By the way, we got a freighter going through. See it there? Heading north. Yep, toward the UP there, along the same area as river. Inching closer to sunset. We do have a few clouds out there this evening. There's not a lot, but there's a little bit of cloud cover. Temperatures today, here were the highs. Mackinac Island, 61. That was it. So if you were near Lake Huron, it was cooler. You get down by Frankfort, Ludington, we had mid-70s in those areas. Traverse City, a nice day, along with Cadillac, Big Rapids, all reaching 72. Grayling, 73. But you see why Lake Huron was cooler. Here's the wind right now. And if you look at the arrows, the direction of the wind, it was right off the lake. So that brings in that cooler air mass there. That's why they were a little bit on the cooler side. But looking at the weather map tonight, it's very quiet. High pressure sits up near Quebec. There's a cold front through the Dakotas, way off to the west of us. We're caught here in the middle, and there's just a little bank of clouds drifting through here. That's it. What will happen to those tonight, we stay on the mostly cloudy side overnight, right there. Tomorrow morning, still some high and mid-level clouds, but look what happens later in the day tomorrow. These will thin out. And so as we head toward evening, pretty clear. And then we go all the way out to Friday, right there. There's Friday morning. And we do have the little bit of rain. Now, you may say, well, I thought it was supposed to be dry for a long time. Yes, it's just up in the UP. There's a front coming in, so you might get a little rain there. Friday morning, we'll put it in. That passes through, and then Saturday, back to dry weather, and we'll see that right through the day on Sunday. Now, look at this temperature. Does this not kind of say fall? 70s and 80s, and then 50s. All on the same temperature map here. Very warm Friday, Saturday, even Sunday, and then a front drops through Monday, and then look what happens Tuesday and Wednesday. You might look at that and say, well, fall's here, Tuesday and Wednesday. Yes, but I want to show you something. We have this big trough in place. You see where Traverse City, Chicago is on there? That's the Great Lakes. Our cooler air mass is where you look up toward Montana. That gets in here right there. There's the 50s Tuesday, Wednesday. But then watch after that. Warm air comes right back in. So I don't think that cooler air is going to last very long. Middle of next week, I think late next week and the following week, probably very warm again. So maybe briefly, cooler is the way to describe that. And look at these temperatures though, Friday and Saturday. 70s well into the 80s, I do think so in some spots. Things play out right. The weekend does look dry, and then that chance for a few showers comes in Monday, and you might be looking at that and say, well, there, we got some rain coming in. Yes, some showers, but even then, it doesn't look like a whole lot of rain going.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, love it. Keeping us on our toes. Going to go from the short sleeves to maybe a long sleeve when it gets down to those lower temperatures, and then maybe short sleeves again. Thank you, Joe. We're going to take another quick break. When we get back, the Tigers, a chance to move on to the next round today with a win. We'll discuss with Sports Director Harrison Beebe. Stay with us. Welcome back to Unscripted. The Tigers back in the playoffs. They got a win in the wild card round yesterday and could wrap it up, at least the series, today. But as we bring in our sports director, Harrison Beebe, he's probably going to tell us that didn't happen, did it?
No, it didn't. And you didn't need me to tell you that because, Cody, I watched the game over your shoulder on your computer. So.
Sure did. We were locked in. We're true Tigers fans, and we were disappointed together.
It was one of those Tigers-Guardians duels where whoever was going to blink was unfortunately going to cough this one up, and the Tigers coughed it up in a big way because it was 1-1 going into the 8th until the Guardians put up 5 runs in their half of the 8th to eventually win this one 6-1. Now you say 6-1, okay, that's even with that one outburst of an inning, you say, okay, that's a Cleveland game that they were going to win. But if you really watched this game from beginning to end, you saw the Tigers had a lot of chances. You could argue they were robbed of the chance to go ahead 2-1 earlier in this game when they actually had a runner safe at third, and then that was overturned on a replay and ruled that Zach McIntyre was out at third. That took a run off the board and made it a 1-1 game as opposed to a 2-1 Tiger lead. Now, I'm of the belief that there's plenty of game after that, so you don't really want to harp too much on that, and calls are going to be what they are.
Yeah, and it'll change, the game plan and maybe the way that they looked at that bottom of the 8th does change. But yeah, there's plenty of game and plenty of runs.
Right, and that was what happened. Tigers did get plenty of runners on base in this one. In fact, they left 15 total runners on base. 1 for 15 with runners in scoring position is going to be the story of this game because as this Tiger offense has done this last stretch of the season, they've just struggled to get runs on the scoreboard and come up with clutch hits at the right time. It was so bad. Riley Green is one of the faces of this offense. He was subbed out for Jahmai Jones in the middle of this game when it could have made a key factor, and that's how much confidence they have in Riley Green at the moment to come up in a clutch spot. So what's going to need to change tomorrow? Yeah, Tarek Skubal pitching a gem to allow the Tigers to jump ahead 1-0 in the series. No Tarek Skubal. We joked earlier, why can't he be like Shohei Ohtani and play every game? That is not the case. The Tigers were in this game and took themselves out with their chances with runners in scoring position. How will they fare tomorrow? Jack Flaherty on the mound. I have not loved him this season. Having said that, in a one-game winner-take-all situation, it is still possible. So let's wait and see tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, and hopefully the lineup can help them out a little bit tomorrow. Thank you, Harrison. We're going to take our final break of the show. When we get back, we'll take our last look at today's question of the day. Keep it here.
Salon services are furnished by Epiphany Advanced Academy in East Acme.
Welcome back to Unscripted. For the past few days, as the sun has set, the sky has not gone black for everyone. Purples and greens have stretched across the horizons, and we talked to someone who said there's been an uptick. You can see that conversation on our website, UpNorthive.com. That story will be on there. Our question of the day has to do with that. Do you have a favorite spot to see the northern lights? As of right now, 58% of people said yes, 42% said no. Looking at a couple of comments that we have on our Facebook page, Sandy said, I love viewing the lights from the overlook at Mount Moriah at Hubbard Lake, Michigan. And a couple of people said they love watching them from their bedroom balcony or their yard. And looking at some of the pictures, looks like nice places to see them. You can see those pictures and weigh in on our Facebook page and vote. If you already voted, thanks for doing so. Thanks for joining us for Unscripted, and have a great night.